Hey there viewers, welcome back to part 4 of the Subaru head gasket job. I think we've dragged this out long enough, but we have the heads back now, thankfully. My wife went and picked them up yesterday, so we've got them here. We're going to take and get them assembled and get them back on this car and get this thing out of here. So you can see we got the head here, got it back from the machine shop. It's all cleaned up. Looks like on this one he did not have to resurface it, so the head was good and straight. This is the driver's side head here. It's the one that has the EGR port, so this is the left head. And this was the one that was actually leaking the worst. I'm pretty surprised it wasn't out of spec, but yeah, we're gonna go from there. Valves are in. He put all brand new guides in it, new valve seals, so that's all taken care of. Got our parts that we've already cleaned up. So we're going to go ahead and assemble this. I printed out all the torque specs for the upper cam cover here, or upper cam bearing, whatever you want to call it. So we got all that, so let's get busy. First thing I got to do is got to put the camshaft back in it. So I'm going to use some engine assembly lube, and I'm just going to put a little bit on the bearing surfaces of the where the cam's going to ride. Kind of prevent any dry start up there. You don't need a ton of this stuff. Use a lot of Permatex products here, and that's what this is. This is some Permatex Ultra Slick. And we've already got our parts clean, so we don't have to worry about any of that. We'll just go ahead and set the cam down on here. Let it spin around. So it should rotate nice and freely. There's a couple of grooves here where these little oil galleys are. I'm just going to stick just a little bit on there. Just make sure we got it lubricated properly. Go ahead and hit the lobes of the camshaft too. Alright, that should be enough. Now what we want to do is we want to put our upper cam cover on. And we're going to put some silicone on that, and that's right, in that groove that goes all the way around where you removed all the old silicone. So what I'm going to do is just take some brake parts cleaner, going to go around the head and make sure this is all oil free and good and clean. That way we know our silicone's going to stick well, or adhere well rather. Now that we know that's clean, you want to do the same thing on the bearing surface here, or on this upper cam bearing here. I'm going to use some Permatex Ultra Gray. Just going to go around, the perimeter here, right where the old silicone was. Essentially go around and put down a bead. Now you want to, kind of use your mind when you do this. Subaru does have a spec for it. I don't know, they tell you like a 3mm bead or something along those lines, but you want to use common sense. This is a machine fit. They do give you this little groove here, kind of as an overflow, I guess, so to speak. So you don't need a ton. I do concentrate my silicone up right on the edge of that groove, because essentially we're going to be sealing against the flat part of the machine surface here. So yeah, let's begin. Got a good bead on there. Usually I'll make sure, I don't know, it's just always been my habit. It's probably just something just because I've always done it since I was a kid. You like sticking your fingers and stuff. But, I always just make sure that I've got it all the way up to the edge where it's going to seal, especially against the cam seal and stuff here. I just, I'll usually just smear it around a little bit just to make sure that I'm not going to have, because any gap you have is going to be a leak. So I always just try to make sure that I've got it all the way up to the edges of my sealing surface, just in case that bead doesn't, ooze out, I guess, for lack of a better term. And, so it's just my habit. Like I say, I think you grow up doing certain things and you just continue to do them. Take just a dab of assembly lube here. Stick it on these cam bearings. You can put it on the cam too if you'd like, but just you know, don't want a dry startup, that's for sure. So don't want this stuff getting in your silicone either. Well, we've got that done. We want to take and as long as there's no foreign material or any reason we can't put this on, you know, oil, grease, anything like that, just kind of double check everything. Make sure you definitely have good, you know, good amounts of silicone right up to the edges of the surface here, and yeah, I guess that's it. Then we'll go ahead and set it on. Make sure your dowel pins are in. You know, if you remove those, you definitely don't want to have to do this twice or get all done and find out you forgot to put them on. So we'll line it up. Let's go ahead and wiggle it down. Kind of a one-shot deal, so you know, your cam should rotate freely. Then just going to go around it and going to put all our bolts back where we got them. Just going to leave them all in there kind of loosely right now, and then we're going to follow down the torque sequence. When you put out these last two out here on the end of the camshaft, you're going to want to make sure that they've got the sealing washers on them. If you've lost those or didn't retain them when you took them apart, then you're obviously going to have to buy new ones. They recommend you replace them, I guess, every time you do these. I've never replaced them and I've never had a problem, so. Usually when I get to this point before I've gone through and, you know, torque this cover on, usually I like to install my cam seal, simply because they go on a lot easier. And so I'm going to put a little bit of assembly lube just on the lip of the cam seal. Spread that around. I know in the directions they usually tell you to do this last, but like I say, I find it's just as easy sitting right here. So getting it lined up and push it in and just torque it down and get an installer cup. One thing that I should mention, when you push that seal in, I can show you on the other cover here, there's actually a, you know, a machined lip that you push it into until there's a, I don't know if that's going to focus on there, but there's that little tiny step right here on the surface where the seal goes in. So basically you push the seal in until it hits this, I hope you can see that, until it hits that little inner ledge. So you know, I've got an actual, you know, cam seal installing cup. If you don't have one, it's not a big deal. You can do the way I did them for years, is you can just take the old seal, assuming that you saved it, you can stick it up on the cam, and then you can use something to push against, you know, the old seal, you know, whether it be a socket or, you know, whatever the case may be, you know, to push that seal in to where it belongs. So sometimes that can be kind of a helpful tip. On the back side of this head, on the cam, we'll put in this plug. Same thing, that has a machined lip recessed down in there. So we'll get that started. Drive that in. It'll look good and even all the way around there, so you'll know when you've got it in right. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set the rocker arms back on there. I've got the cam, so all the flat parts of the lobes essentially are up, so there shouldn't be any tension on these. Go ahead and set the exhaust rockers on there first. Grab the intake rockers here. Sometimes you need more than two hands. set on there. These are going to be the first things that we torque. So I'm going to get all these bolts tightened down by hand, and then we'll go through and get them torqued down. All right, so I'm going to use our torque wrench here. This is the image that we have. Let me get that a little better for you. So basically these just get torqued down to 18.1 foot-pounds according to Subaru. So that's where we're going to start. Torque wrench set. And then just go in sequence, which basically is working from the center out. So that's what we're going to do. We've got those torqued. We'll go on to the next step, and that is going to be all of our bolts here that are, well, I forgot to note down, that are the Torx Plus. It's the only kind of the crappy things about these. It's a lot of people don't have those, but it's what they call a Torx Plus bit. It takes a TP40, so it looks just like a standard Torx bit, except it's kind of more like a spline drive, I guess. Its edges are just rounded off. I don't know if a standard Torx would fit in there or not, but yeah, they're called Torx Plus. Those are torqued to 13 foot-pounds, and essentially the same type of pattern, just kind of working from the inside out. Get our torque wrench set here. You know, if you're not sure if you're doing this and you get interrupted or something, you're not sure if you did them or not, it's always a good idea just to kind of go back through, or if one felt suspect to you, like, I'm not sure if I tightened that, or you know, skipping a little bit on the threads, or you know, whatever the case may be, just go back through and just double check them, don't hurt anything. So after that's done, go right on to our next step, which is going to be our all the ones that take the 5mm Allen socket. And we're going to go through and do those again in sequence, and those are torqued to 7.2 foot-pounds. And last but not least, we have the two bolts here on the end that had the sealing washers on them. Those are also torqued to 7.2 foot-pounds. So we'll just go ahead and make sure we got those. Seven foot-pounds is not a lot. I think an average guy could probably do 14 or 15 with a screwdriver. So you know, if you're not torquing them, know that 7 foot-pounds is pretty light. Once you got everything torqued on there, it's probably a good idea to just grab your cam sprocket and just double check. You know, your cam should still move nice and free, and you know, if you want, you can go ahead and spin it over, and you know, you can watch it push open the valves and you know, spin it each way. So you know, you can cam it over, but you know, just be careful. This thing, you know, when they kick over, you know, cut your hand or something. So be careful with that. Be a good idea too, just to kind of look around the head. There should be some silicone, small amount that's oozed out essentially all the way around. You know, if there's not, well, I suppose you're taking a chance that, you know, that perhaps there wasn't enough in that area to seal. It's definitely not something you want to do when the head's in the car. It could be real, I mean, it's doable, but it's, it's a pain in the neck. So if you doubt it, I guess my suggestion would be, just take it apart, clean all the old silicone out. That's just, just something you have to do. It comes with the territory. If you don't know and you can't tell, I would encourage you to take it back apart. So I guess that would be my only tip for this. Don't really have any other tips. Everything's on, torqued down. I'm going to go ahead and put the other head together and get that taken care of. No sense in showing you how to do the process twice. It's the same thing on that head too, essentially. Cleaning stuff off, lubing the cam, putting the cam in, putting all the bolts in and torquing things down. One thing I did realize that I did not lube, that somebody will probably point out, is I didn't put any lube on the valve stem tips. I've still got to go through and adjust the valves. A lot of times that just makes for a messy job, and I will lubricate those before we're done. But in case you're wondering, why I didn't put any assembly lube on the ends of the rock arms, well, that's why. Just because I don't want to be, covered with the oil and stuff. Just trying to get the valves adjusted. So that's how I do them. That's how I've always done them. Never really ran into many issues, but as soon as I get that other head done, we'll go through and get these valves adjusted and then move on from there. I'm back. I don't exactly remember where I left off. I'm a little bit frustrated today. Not with work, just other issues, but anyhow, got both heads assembled. Cams are and everything silicone torqued and tightened down. I did forget to mention when we did that head that I showed you, which is a left head, we also have to put the cam sensor back on there. If you recall watching part 2, I think it was, when we tore the heads apart, we had to take that bracket off that held the cam sensor, so that has to go back on, and the cam sensor has to go back in, obviously. What we have to do now is adjust the valves. I've got the specs on that, got some feeler gauges, I've got a tool here I know you guys are going to love and like and want to ask questions about, so I'll show that so we don't have to come back and touch on that, and show you how I adjust the valves right here before we put the head on, and we'll go on from there. First thing I'm going to do is just grab a cam pulley. Doesn't really matter which one you use, I guess. This is the right one. I'm just going to put it on there and thread a bolt back in it, because that's what I'm going to use to turn this. So I guess I'll show you a couple tools you need for this. You're probably pretty familiar with these. But you need a set of feeler gauges. Okay, the intake on these is set at 0.008 or 0.008 or 20 or 0.20 millimeters, and the exhaust is set at 0.010, 0.010 inches or 0.25 millimeters. So anyhow, these are feeler gauges. That's what they look like. And then this is a pretty cool tool. These are put out by Snap-on. Let's see if I can give you that number on there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but yeah, they're made by Blue Point. And these are kind of cool. Anybody that's ever adjusted mechanical rock arms, probably has seen these or has them or has thought about getting them. Conventional methods you would usually use are a wrench and a screwdriver. Stick your wrench on a jam nut, you bust it loose, make your adjustments with a screwdriver, hold the screwdriver, turn the wrench. This basically just puts that all in one little package. Got your wrench on there. Gives us an open window here that we can see through. We're going to take and, allows you to crack it loose, make your adjustments, tighten it down. So that's how that works. So that's kind of a neat tool. I've got these in a couple different sizes. I think like 10 and 12 millimeter are the ones you primarily use to do, Subarus, Hondas, Toyotas, most everything, lawnmowers, things of that nature. And these, I know you guys might be interested in too. You might have noticed, but if I find a tool that's handy, I'll probably buy it. But these are, camshaft pulley pliers, or pulley pliers in general. So you can see they've got teeth that rotate, and you can take them off and put them on either side of the pliers. These are just like an adjustable plier. Allows you to hold the sprocket, so when you're torquing it, or in cases like this, when I want to turn it, it kind of gives you something to grab a hold of. Let me grab the case these things came in. So this is the case they come in. It comes with a couple different size, teeth inserts. It even comes with one for like just a standard serpentine belt. Haven't used many of these different teeth, but this was put out put out by Mac. That is the part number on that if you're interested in that. So pretty neat. I use it quite a bit because we do a lot of timing belts, and sometimes that's pretty handy to have. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to start with the exhaust side. I already went through and did the other head, and I'll just do this one to show you the process I use doing that. So basically we want it so our valve's completely closed, and we're on the I don't want to call it the flat part of the cam, but your cam has the lobe on it. We want to be on the bottom side of that lobe. That way there's no tension on these rocker arms when we go to adjust them. So, you can turn it. I don't mark these or anything like that. You can turn it. You can see it's starting to push down this exhaust valve here. So I know I'm coming up on the high spot on the cam. So I'm just going to rotate it around, and just use my cam gear pliers here. And just going to spin that around so I know that that part of the cam is away from the end of this rocker arm. I know that's probably a really cheesy explanation. If you're not sure, you can just look in there, and it's usually pretty easy to see. Now I know I've often asked myself the question, as that cam rotates around, if I don't have it on the exact bottom of that cam, is that going to throw off my measurement? I don't know. You guys can answer that how you want. I've gone through and say, for example, like I'll take and I'll set it here. Let's say I set it at the 10,000ths it's supposed to be. I've actually rotated it this way, checked it again, rotated it the other way, checked it again, and I haven't found any variance or any difference, as long as I'm not on the lobe of the cam or close to it. So that's just kind of my thoughts. I hope that makes sense. So I've got this one in a spot where I believe we can adjust it. So I'm going to set this one at 10,000ths. Now the other thing that you'll find, or that I find, that there's a lot of controversy on is, how do you know when that's 10,000ths? How do you know what's that supposed to feel like? Am I supposed to, have to snap it out of there? Is it supposed to be just, lightly push it through? The method I've always used is what I was taught, just kind of growing up. It should feel like it does if you drag it across the magnet. So let's say if we had our little magnet we use for getting screws, stick that on there, drag that back and forth across the magnet, and that's essentially what I think a properly gapped valve, or gapped anything. Anytime you're using a feeler gauge, I think that's I guess that's what I've always gone with growing up, is that feel like it does when you drag it across the magnet. If so, then that's kind of where I've stopped. So I hope all that makes sense. I guess I'll leave it at that for now. And another thing too, if you're not sure, you're doing the 10,000ths, be like, boy, I think that's just right. Jump up to the 11. See if that one slips right under there. Then go to the 12. That'll give you a good indication as to how tight you have it, or loose. So, all right. Well, let's continue. So all these feel loose. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this one cracked loose. Usually what I'll do is I'll leave this nut like a little bit tight. That way I've got some resistance on my screw as I'm turning it. Otherwise it can be kind of hard to control. So stick it in there and I'll start to tighten it in little steps. It's a little too tight. That feels good. So then you hold against your screwdriver, and then tighten your jam nut down. And then I usually just go through and double check them. That one feels a little bit loose, so I'm just going to do, just like I said, I'm going to jump up to the 11,000ths. Dig it out here. Oh gosh, I should have had this all prepared. There's the 11. Let's see how that feels. It's probably good. Yeah, and that's really tight. So I'm going to leave it where I've got it at 10,000ths. Feels like it does when I drag it across the magnet. So I'm going to go on and just do the next one. Now these jam nuts are supposed to be torqued down. I'd have to look up the spec. I want to say it was like 7 foot-pounds or something like that. I don't know. I just use common sense when I'm tightening them. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to get out a torque wrench, pretend that I do it. So that feels good. I know I'd probably go way more than 7 foot-pounds, but fact of the matter is they're not going to come loose on me. Oops. Oh shoot, I just did that one with the 11. Pay attention. that's lesson for you. Now I'm all fumbly here today. Yep, so you can see I just did that 111, so 10 thousandths is quite loose, so more paying attention and less talking is what I need to do. It's been one of those days, let me tell you. That feels good. Oops, gosh, man, so not with it. I'll tighten now, back that off. That's probably gonna be good there, I'll double check. That feels good. Tighten that down. Then I don't know where this one is in the sequence of things, so I'm gonna take and turn that so you can see it. It's gonna be right here on the exhaust valve. I'll just take and rotate this. Yeah, you can see the exhaust valve's on its way down. Now it's closed. Now I'll rotate it so we know the cam is essentially going to be up on the low part of the lobe, and now we're safe to go ahead and adjust that one there. Let me see if I can do this one right the first time. Give you kind of a good example again. So we're here, 10 thousandths is really loose. So crack them loose, leave them a little bit snug. Got our 10 thousandths. Yep, that feels good. Just double check it. Oops. Yeah, that feels good. All right. Do this one, same thing. They both feel good, so essentially I'm going to just go ahead and turn that around. On the intake side here, I've taken and just rotated it around just like we did on the exhaust side, and I've got essentially got these in a position in which they can be adjusted. The high spot of the lobe of the cam is facing away from the rocker arms, so we're just going to go ahead and work our way down these intake valves here. Making sure these are at 8 thousandths. And if you're doing this, I would say make sure you let off your screwdriver when you're checking them with your feeler gauge. That way you don't get a false reading. And what I mean by that is you can actually just lightly be pushing down on the screwdriver, and it makes it so you can't hardly move your feeler gauge. So it gives you kind of a false sensation that that you have it when you might not. So that's why whenever I get done with them, I like to just check them with my screwdriver completely off from it. That way there's just the weight of the rocker arm, nothing else pushing down on it. We can see where it's at. So I'm going to continue on through here. I'm going to do this cylinder. I'm going to rotate it again until these valves come down, back up, and then make sure the cam is facing away from these rocker arms. And essentially that's it. Just take your time, do them right, and you won't have to worry about the thing ticking when it's in the car. So. Or ticking bad, I guess, because a Subaru that doesn't knock is a Subaru that doesn't run. I don't know, these things are always seem to be chatterboxes to me, but anyhow, that's how we adjust the valves here. So I'm going to keep moving forward. Well, to tell you the truth, I'm not sure how that valve adjustment video just went. I think I mentioned, I don't know, a lot of hours have passed since then. I think I mentioned that I'm a little slightly frustrated today. Today's been kind of a rough day. Not work-wise, just employees, self-employed business stuff. Some days it sucks. Some days it'd be easier to be working for the man and just be like, it's 5 o'clock, see ya. But I want to work by myself and own my own business, so this is some of the joys that come with that. So I hope that I didn't let my mood interfere with how the valve adjustment portion of this just went, and I hope you're able to learn something or see something. Hate to go this far in the video and then botch it because I'm having a bad day. So we'll just stop right there and try to make it a good day. So we're gonna put the spark plugs back in these heads. I'm just gonna torque, gap those and torque those. That's pretty elementary. Get that done. I'm gonna take some of the assembly lube, tip the head up on its edge, drip a little bit on top of the valve stem. So I'll show you that, and then I think we're ready to put these heads on. So we'll go ahead and do that. So stick around. So I might have mentioned that the machine shop replaced the valve guide, so it's always this guy's habit. He always sends back the old parts. So in case you're wondering, maybe you've never seen one, but that's what a valve guide looks like. It's the guide that goes inside the head that the actual valve runs through. So he goes through and he measures these, checks the tolerance on them for me. Subarus are really noted for dropping valve guides, not particularly these older ones, but the 06 and up are really prone to having the valve guides migrate out of the head. So, and then we go through and replace all the valve seals. So this is what the valve stem seals look like, in case you never seen any of those. So yeah, so that's a valve stem seal, and that's a valve guide. So just in case you're kind of curious about that, that's what those are. So those plugs are all in, tightened down, ready to go. Everything's lubricated. So let's put these heads on. Okay, viewers, sorry to disappoint you. I am not torquing the heads on today. I'm gonna go home. Today was terrible, completely crappy day. I've got a bad attitude, so I'm not gonna stick around to torque the heads on. I've called my customer, explained to them my deepest, innermost feelings. Well, not really. I just asked them if I could have it for another day, and the guy's totally fine with it. So that's good. And I've never found any profit in going at something with the wrong mindset. It's just bound to make you make mistakes, and I don't want to make mistakes on a head job. So I'm gonna call it quits. Sorry to drag this out into 4 parts, but I've gone this far and I'm not stopping. So that's all there is to it. But tomorrow's a new day. I'm gonna start all over, hit the reset button, move on. So thanks for watching, thanks for bearing with me. I give you the thumbs up if you've made it this far through the Subaru head gasket replacement series. So thanks for watching.